They were tripping over themselves to pass the Genius Act. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why were these politicians tripping over themselves to get this thing passed? And the answer is really simple. They needed a buyer for all of their debt. And the buyer is the stablecoin issuers. And it's really kind of interesting to see how that all really transpired and really kind of came to a head is, the government had to start issuing shorter and shorter duration paper because there was no buyers for anything that was long duration because there was so much inflation risk. So they're down there like issuing like 1 month money. And it's like, well, who's going to buy all this 1 month money? Well, you know what? The stablecoin issuers literally they love that because they can back everything. They can gobble up all this new issuance. They don't have the inflation risk that if they were buying 30-year paper, they don't want that inflation risk because they don't know if it's going to be fully backed, right? Or they'd have to keep rolling it to try to like manage that. But if it's really short duration, it's actually perfect for them. And then the really smart ones, what are they going to do with all the coupons that they're receiving? They're just going to sweep it into Bitcoin. And then it's really backed because that thing's going up at 40 to 50% annualized. It's like extra over collateralized. What I find so interesting with all of this is you literally have BlackRock and all these other banks that are playing a fractional reserve game. They don't even have what they're issuing in the vault. But yet you have a company that's fully collateralized with extra Bitcoin in the vault, and they're making more profit than the ones that are playing the Ponzi game. And they're getting the issue like literally from thin air, and they're making more money than them. If that doesn't show you like the natural market forces that nature is trying to heal itself, I don't know what does. Because it's miraculous to me that you can have something that's over collateralized just whipping the pants off of the ones that are literally cheating as if it's a total Ponzi scheme.
And right there, they just gave you the game plan for why the Genius Act got passed so quick. It's a no-brainer when you understand the mechanics of what's going on behind the curtain. And with that, what's happening, Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you. Another cryptocurrency video. Getting straight into it. Bitcoin, at the current time it's recording, is coming into 113.6K. What do we see? What do we anticipate? Could we see lower price action? Bitcoin is still just in this macro downtrend. Right here, once we had this peak up to 124, right now we're just cooling off. Will we hold this level 111? Will we come back down to the 105 to 107 range? Or will we come even lower? We'll take a look at that before this video's out. Michael Saylor, in the meantime, in between time, he is still buying. When this gets announced, the buys then get announced the next day. And right here, every time we go to September 1st, we have some type of pullback, some cool down to the market. For every bull cycle before, it's been the same. 2021, pullback, then a 70% rally. 2017, pullback, then a 575% rally. 2023, pullback, and an over 1,000% rally. So we get the pullback. What is the percent appreciation that we will see moving forward? The spring could be coiling. And right here, Bitwise CEO says, Bitcoin's demand is so strong, the 4-year cycle is dead. He is confident in a bull market next year. A lot of people are talking about selling their Bitcoin by the end of this year. Will they get burnt trying to do what's worked the past 3 cycles? Is this time truly different? And checking out this chart, this is a divergence we've showed you before. And basically, this first level has been hit. Will Bitcoin get back down to the 90s? Time will tell. Metaplanet is still stacking Bitcoin. They just bought another 103 Bitcoin, almost to 19,000 in total, 18,991. They definitely will probably clip 19,000 next week and potentially 20K depending on how big the buy really is. Looking at Metaplanet, what do we see right now? So the market's open and still trading roughly where it closed on Friday. We'll see what happens as the Japanese session continues and the US session opens. Will we get a rally to the upside? There's some news here. Metaplanet has been added to the FTSE Japan Index in a September review, another important milestone for the Metaplanet journey. And what this means is it joins the FTSE Japan Index and by extension the FTSE World Index. Increased automatic passive inflows will be coming. Are you prepared for what's to come? And right here, Grok even understands the Federal Reserve, while publicly overseen, is owned by private member banks that profit from its operations via capped dividends. Critics like Rothbard argue it enables fractional reserve banking, creating money from thin air, fueling inflation, a quote-unquote hidden tax, eroding public wealth while benefiting financial elites. So basically, Grok is exposing the Ponzi scheme. And then this person here says, what's the alternative to this corrupt system? One word answer only. And guess what Grok said? Bitcoin. So we've been telling you this time and time again. You have to opt out of the system. You have to save your hard-earned dollars by buying Bitcoin with those dollars. And with that, we'll leave you with this from Tom Lee. Tom Lee's weighing in on if Bitcoin goes up, what's going to happen with strategy, Metaplanet, and other Bitcoin treasuries alike. Let's hear from Tom.
As long as Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy very likely goes up a lot more. MicroStrategy, around 5 years ago, transformed the company by using its balance sheet. They had a lot of cash on hand to buy Bitcoin. And so instead of the stock being valued on its actual software business, which had been languishing, it's valued as a holder of Bitcoin. But as Bitcoin has risen and MicroStrategy stock has gone up, it's created an opportunity for them to issue convertible bonds and debt to acquire more Bitcoin. What's been novel is that they've issued these debt securities for almost no interest cost, essentially zero interest bonds. And so they're funding this without having to actually pay for the interest expense. Now, you might think that this is a little bit reckless, but it turns out it's a very novel strategy because they have created a lot of network value. They're one of the largest holders of Bitcoin now, and ultimately they may become the second largest holder of Bitcoin after the US government. They're doing this with the ability to borrow at very low cost. You might wonder, why are bondholders buying these bonds? They're offering for the first time the ability for someone to put $1 billion of work in the bond world to own a bond that has exposure to Bitcoin. These have been incredibly high-performing bonds. They've been the best-performing bonds, so they've helped bond managers outperform by buying typical corporate bonds, but then with this upside in crypto. And so I think that this works unless Bitcoin itself doesn't have a promising future. I think Michael Saylor has not only done something brilliant, but over time, when they do accumulate enough Bitcoin, they're actually going to be able to do quite a lot of novel things with it, whether it's lending Bitcoin or helping some financial system secure Bitcoin as sort of the anchor of that network. MicroStrategy is going to be one of the few companies that has a large holding of Bitcoin that you can actually tap. So it's a very, I kind of applaud the strategy. So I think that there is a lot of upside. As long as Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy very likely goes up a lot more.